So a lot of the dealerships that I'm talking to now are stressed over a pending recession, stuff like that, and how much inventory they may have out, things like that. So I wanted to kind of walk you through, what's kind of occurring and what's kind of happening to their businesses, and kind of let you know where I stand on that, what I'm doing, and kind of what I've been doing. And let's get into it, guys. So that being said, there's a lot of dealerships around my area that are really deep into their cars, right? Weirdly enough, we've had a lot of the lending banks, like the tool that they use, Black Book and NADA, which we refer to as NADA. Um, that's the valuation book, let's say. So let's just say it's like the Zestimate or the Zillow if you've looked for a house or anything like that. They use those to judge basically the value of a car. Now, lately, the cars have stayed basically kind of stalled out in price at auctions, but for some reason, the Black Book values and the NADA values have dropped significantly, like serious drops, like big time. So what that does is that, let's say I bought a car for $10,000. The bank basically, let's say the month I bought it, said, okay, well, the black book value says it's $10,000, right? You're good. You can sell the car for that price, and you'll make a little bit on top of that, right? When Black Book drops the price of that car, let's say they drop it to $8,000 in a month. Like, it's not uncommon for the cars that I've had that happen. That's why I always bought them under Black Book, significantly under Black Book. I gave myself a 20% margin of safety, so I'd buy at 80% Black Book value, and I wouldn't go above that. And I was firm on my numbers. A lot of these guys I talk to are like, oh, I go over it all the time, 110, 120% over, because if you're sitting there, let's say you're making $2,000 on a car. If you buy it at 110% of Black Book, let's say Black Book in that example is 10%, you're buying it at, let's say, $11,000, where you're making $2,000 on the car. That's gonna, you're getting, let's say the bank gives you 12 at that point. That's kind of like the thought process, right? The bank gave you 12, so you're still making $1,000. Okay, so you don't care how much you buy it for. Me, I didn't trust them. I don't trust I don't trust other businesses to have my back, so to speak, in business, right? So naturally, what I did was I was like, okay, well, I'm going to buy these undervalued, because at any point in time they can change these valuations. They always changed them up, at least for the last 2 years with COVID. So there wasn't really a lot of drops going down. So that being said, I was like, at some point it's going to drop. I just don't know when. So I always bought my cars. It was a struggle. I would look through hundreds and hundreds of cars a day on Manheim's OVE auction, and I mean, I might buy two a week. So every morning I would get up in lieu of doing these videos, I would do that. That's what I would do. I would look for through cars all day. So I mean, one day I had no cars on my lot, and it was a Sunday morning. I woke up at 6 a.m. and I stopped bidding at 1 p.m. and I bought 4 cars. So I mean, you can, well, and it's not even bidding; it's just buying. It's like being on eBay going to buy it now. That's kind of what OVE is like, right? I mean, there's a bidding function, but we won't get into that. But yeah, that's what I did. I mean, that's what it took to maintain my what I considered my margin of safety on a vehicle, right? So fast forward to now, right? Book rates are dropping. And everybody has, I believe the psychological term is like a recency bias, something like that. You can, I'll have to look it up. We'll talk about that later. But basically, the premise of that is that people think that what's happened in the last, let's say, 4 or 5 months is going to happen forever and eternity. It's always going to do that. All prices are always going to go up. Prices are always going to be this high. This is always going to happen, right? And so a lot of dealers went out and bought some very, very expensive vehicles, like in terms of what their dealership usually sells. Oh, here we go, yawning again, son of a bee. Sorry. So basically, that'd be like, let's say my dealership typically retails in the $6,000 to $15,000 range, and then I'm going out. Let's say I buy a $40,000 car, thinking I'm going to sell this thing to either a subprime, or I'm going to sell this to somebody cash, because there's so much money going around with everything. So that's kind of what a lot of dealers around me started doing, And they were loving it. They were loving it when the money was coming in, and they're not loving it now because then they got deeper and deeper and deeper, and now they have cars they can't offload to anybody because they don't have the financing banks for those types of vehicles. So anyways, now they're either having to run them through auction or they're just having to take massive losses on these cars, which they're doing right now. I mean, I've talked to a couple of dealers and they're taking massive losses trying to get rid of these cars. And so for me, for my dealership, what I was doing is I was buying cars at a fraction of black book value. And and now my dealership right now, let's say the black book value, now I'm at 100%. I'm not going to lie there. I'm at 100% on a handful of my cars. But I don't care because I own them. I own them cash. I bought them on a floor, but as my floor meaning, let's say a line of credit, right? So I bought them on a floor as a line of credit, but as my business sold more cars and made more money, I think in like, January, February, and March, profit wise, I think my business was making somewhere around 30,000 a month, after paying salaries and everything, right? So I mean, we have around 15 to 20,000 in fixed costs, so we made about 30,000 each on top of that. But in lieu of, which is the other thing our business did, is my business did not take that as profits into our bank account. We didn't, into our personal bank accounts, right? We didn't do that. I was talking to my business partner and, me and him are, pretty much aligned there that, hey, we don't want to raise our salaries. We don't want to do any of that. Let's put the money in the business. Let's use it to buy other things. Dang it. This coffee is not working. Let's do it to buy other things. So what we did instead was we actually bought, we bought a couple mobile homes and rented those out. So that's extra money coming in a month. That's between the mobile homes that we have, which is 5, and I think we're probably getting number 6 today. We actually bring in about $1,500 to the business every month. And then on top of that, which is just payments, which is great. I mean, it's reoccurring payments, and same with our typical buy here, pay here. We bring in about 10,000 to 15,000, depending on how many cars you sell, how many people fall off, and all that kind of stuff. About 15,000 a month, almost covers all of our fixed expenses. So then on top of that, we were bringing in all this extra money because of how many cars we were selling through tax season. And instead of just blowing all that money, we were strategic about how we invested it. So what we did was we bought the mobile homes, and we also bought cars cash, which we hadn't been doing on our, let's say, our more expensive vehicles, our $7,000 to $12,000 cars. We bought those ones cash, and then we went back to reflooring these other vehicles. But what would happen is when we would sell a car that we had bought cash, instead of going and buying another car, we would just use that money to pay off the floor of a different car. Now we have another car on the lot that's cash, and at the end of the day, that's kind of been great, because now I have a car lot full of cars where I think I've got like 4 or 5 maybe that have floors to the tune of like 20 grand or something like that, and something small. And then all the other, I think I got like 35 cars on the lot. So the other 33 cars or so, I guess 31 cars I own outright, right? So I'm not sweating it. I'm not sweating it at all. I mean, I'm watching a lot of dealers that have a lot of things that are going on. It's really, really sad, because there's a lot of dealers that I know. It's just, in terms of business, you've got to think through all the what ifs, and you got to kind of prepare for the bad stuff. And, some of them are going to make it and some of them aren't. And that's just part of business. That's why not a lot of people go into it, because it is a risky move. It takes a lot of thinking, a lot of strategy. It takes a lot of patience. I can't count how much I have to do just to my dealership. How much I have to work through things constantly. There's the legal aspect, making sure all the paperwork's done correctly. The constant, just people threatening you because you took their car. Now we haven't had that problem in a long time. We haven't repoed in a long time, but there was a spell of quite a period of time there, a couple of years, where people were just very, very threatening, and it makes you question everything you're doing. Like, okay, well, why would I do that? I might as well sell to people that, aren't really, in a bad spot, and just because they're going to be easier to deal with, and you're going to be able to get them into cars easier. It's just going to make things easier. But then riches are in niches, right? So, I mean, if you go do everything everybody else is doing, which is sell to the middle class, then, you're competing now, and there's really nothing more you can offer them other than what everybody else is offering them, right? So there's a lot of strategy that goes into what you're doing and what you're doing in business, right? Not just in your market, but in just inside your business as well. There's strategies, and we can get into those strategies, kind of the things that we've done over the course of the 5 years here, 5-6 years, and I can kind of talk you through how we went, from selling cars in a warehouse, cash, to buy here, pay here, to now buy here, pay here, and a bank lender, and now buy here, pay here, bank lender, and another bank lender. That's all different strategies and different approaches, and why we made those decisions and what we did. And, I can even talk through my employee status, why I think, I just fired a guy, I don't know, like 5-6 months ago. I can't remember now. But, I mean, why? I mean, why you have to fire certain people. And, and that person was very, very upset, even though he worked for like 2 weeks. It was not really wasn't even really like a thing. He was lying and stuff like that. It was just really bad for the business. And you got to keep that business meshed. You got to have great teammates and teamwork and everything like that. And, some things you just can't tolerate. So with that, I'm not going to get into all that, guys. I'm just rambling now and being an idiot. So with that, I hope you guys liked the video. Subscribe. Hopefully you're not one of those dealers that are. But if you do, if you are, just hit me up. I can give you kind of tips that I had that I've used. And maybe I can give you some advice on how, our business is, we're what we call cash fat. So, we've got plenty of money in the bank. We've got plenty of money just sitting around waiting, and we'll see how that works out for us. So with that, guys, I appreciate it. Appreciate y'all's time. Appreciate y'all watching the video, and I'll talk to you maybe tomorrow.